this is an important concept. It's a new concept. It came from a lot, but I was struggling with some of our clients' goals that I couldn't figure out. And once we figured out all the financial goals and all the timing goals, we do estate planning and stuff. So we talk about, who do you love? What do you want this money to do for them afterwards and such. And so this all evolved into a new concept. And thank you for my lovely wife for helping me, Dr. Brown, the psychiatrist. She is helping me with one of these variables. And so the concept that we're looking for is actually happiness, like sustained happiness. And it sounds pretty easy. It's pretty rare. I've done a lot of math behind this, and I think I've come up with a good concept for it. Of course, this is me trying to beat emotions with logic again. So far, emotions infinity, logic 0. But I'm trying to get a point for logic here. So bear with me. So the 3 variables that I think attribute to happiness are love, time, and money, like wealth, however you want to say this one, economic sustainability. Let's just call it money, because this idea that money's evil, I don't like, but it's money. Money's not a bad word. So money's just a tool. It's an economic tool. It's a unit of measurement on what you can trade your labor in for. So those are the 3 variables: time, love, and money. So each of these variables I broke down into a further 3 variables, and of course I broke those down into a further 3 variables, and I covered all the windows in my house in dry erase marker with math, and let's not do that. So let's try to keep this simple, which I know is not something I'm great at. So if you have positive love in your life, and love's complex, we'll get into that a little bit later, but you have positive love, you have love in your life, you have 1 unit of love more than 1 unit of hate, I suppose would be the opposite. So you have love. You have money, and money is also complex, but you have more money than you need, and you have enough for some of what you want. That's positive money. Time. Time was one of the trickier ones. For me, of course, love was also tricky. I'm not great at emotions. I have a lot of love in my life, and I have a lot of people I love, and I have a lot of people who love me. There's this whole self-love thing that I'm trying to figure out, so that's where I struggle in that one. But now we're getting into the 3 sub-variables. Let's start with these 3. Time, right now, the most common view of time is sort of mindfulness. This one's becoming very popular, but that's just one aspect of time. So I think time also, mindfulness is kind of your today, being in the moment, all that. Your health is a big factor of time. How much longer do you have? How much can you enjoy? If you don't have good health, it's hard to be mindful of today. And then past present is one variable, because where you came from matters. If you're living in the past, that's kind of negative. If you're living too far in the future, you do want to be future thinking. Doesn't negate where you came from, but where you came from, what are you going to do with that? So that gets into time. So you've got time, I'm relatively healthy, or I'm not dying until at least tomorrow. That's time. So to get positive on all 3 of these axes, it's an XYZ. So people like to think of X and a Y. So you think just a simple XY. If you have an XY, there's 4 sectors. They're called quadrants. If you add a Z, that 4 now becomes 8. So if you have one variable, the middle can be positive or negative. So you have 2 sides, much like a coin. So, and this is important for later. So heads on this coin is positive. Tails on this variable or coin is negative. So time is red. So if I'm rolling for time, do I have time or not time? Randomly, I rolled tails. I don't have any time. Sadly, I died yesterday. So, or I'm just so busy that I don't have time for my family. I don't have time for myself. I don't have time for anything. That's negative time. I got more stuff I need to do than time. It's negative time. So that's time. Now let's add purple is love. So I rolled negative on time. So purple is love. Wow, that didn't even bounce. That just rolled right negative on love. I don't have any love today. It's not great. I should probably finish this up and go to my son's birthday party. So here we go. Now we're adding the Z. So Z is money. Money, green. That was an easy choice for me. I struggled with the other two. So you're adding this Z quadrant, and we want, our Z variable rather, we want positive in all three, because if we get positive in all three, we're in the octant, that eighth cube, where you're positive in all three. That's the octant of happiness, the sector of happiness. And that, in theory, you can have a lot of love, a lot of money, and a lot of time, and you're really, really, really happy. You're very deep into that sector. And I feel like we've all been there, right? And then something changes, a variable changes, we re-roll, things go different. So let's roll for money. Of course, heads. Yep, that makes sense. Making money, I guess. So a lot of people choose that. So I rolled positive for money. I rolled negative for time and love. Because here I am in the office on a Sunday. That's, those coins are very accurate today. So that means I have money, I have no time, and I have no love. I haven't named that octant yet. I will eventually name all these octants. I have named some of them, but that's not happiness. So what I'm gonna do is, as a thinking individual, I'm gonna wrap this up, take back my time. Might cost me some money because I have some calls to make, but I will get to those tomorrow morning, or tomorrow's Easter. I'll get to those Monday morning. And I'm gonna go choose love. So now I'm in the octant of happiness, or I soon will be. So rolling that randomly, as you saw me do, just randomly not being mindful of what I'm doing, not being insightful, not being self-aware, getting stuck in these patterns, has a 12.5% chance of being happy, because there's 8 possible outcomes. This is an 8-sided dice. So you have to roll 3 coins, all heads. It's about a 12.5% chance of ending positive on all 3. A triangle's a good way to explain an XYZ in a 2-dimensional plane. So I rolled, yay for money. So much money, look at that. And then I actually rolled no love, no money. So I can't fill in those sectors. But then I'm going to wrap this up. Look at that. Even my marker struggles with love. Whew. They say pets look like their owners. My markers are starting to look like me. And mindfulness, time, health. I actually did exercise today, so I'm doing all right. So there you go. By putting an XYZ on a triangle, you can say, okay, I'm balanced for time, love, and money. I'm right in the middle. But it's reductive. It becomes this sum zero game where I have to trade my time and my love in for more money. But that's just because you took a 3-dimensional XYZ and you put it on a 2-dimensional. And people fall for this all the time in real life. There's a contractor myth. The contractors say you can choose time, quality, or cost. Pick 2. Because they are being simple. They're pulling it down into a 2-dimensional contract. There are contractors that can give you all 3. Helps if you plan ahead, you pick your quality, and then they slip you in where they have a gap. So you can get time, they finish the project real fast. You can get quality work, and you can get it at a reasonable price, a very fair price. You don't really want a discounted price. You want to pay people fairly. So don't try to cheat people. That's bad. It's bad karma. That's a different video. So you can actually have all three. And as, moderately intelligent bipeds, we can choose. We just have to be aware of our actions and break out of those cycles, these cycles, and get to where we need to be. So I now have 3 minutes to finish this up. So that is the octant of happiness. 12.5% chance to get there randomly if you just think about it in simple terms. So you have to roll. And I helped a client make a decision last week, and it was so cool because this concept helped her get to where her gut was telling her she needed to be, but she couldn't figure out she needed to be there. And so she chose love and time over money. And it was a wonderful moment. And we kicked everyone else off the WebEx, and she and I had this really fun, emotional conversation afterwards. It was great. It was a great time. It made neither of us any money, but we chose love and time in that moment, and it was great. So there you go, 12.5% chance to do it randomly. I rolled 2 tails and a heads again. These coins are going in here. I do not trust them anymore. All right, so now think of that, and it's just stats. I'm not mad at those coins. It's interesting luck. Ironically, when I had her roll them, she rolled all 3 heads. And she's like, look, I have time, love, and money. Why would I take this job? It was funny that the coins rolled good for her. Only a 12.5% chance that was going to happen. And if you keep it simple, 12.5%, it happens. If you're happy 1 out of 8 days, that's your average, I would say. If you roll, you've got time and you've got money, but you have no love, a lot of people think that's peace. And so the consensus seems to be, if you have time and money, but you don't have things you love or people you love, that's peace. Think about, a yogi on top of a mountain. He's got enough food to survive. He's got time to sit and think. He's in the moment, and he's very peaceful. But, that peace, particularly in that particular situation for that individual, denying the emotions, denying the self, denying the worldly pleasures, denying others. That's the octant of peace. So maybe you roll there. Some days you're peaceful, some days you're happy, some days you don't have any of the 3 and you're miserable. I do know that when you score negative on all 3 of those, that's called misery. So fortunately, there will be a new day, and you can choose. You can sometimes choose not to be miserable. So now let's go into the deeper. So love is love of others. I do great on that. I love helping people. It makes me feel so good. Love of actions, hobbies, and things. If you have hobbies and things you like, that's love. There are people that love golf. There are people that love dancing. There are people that love their car collections. And that's love. It's a different type of love, but that's love. I generally don't score great on that. I don't have a lot of hobbies outside of doing math on the windows in the middle of the night at my house before my wife catches me and sends me to bed. But, that's love. Love of self, that I struggle with, which is why I was up at 2, 3 a.m. doing the math behind this. So, but still, positive love. Great. Did good on that. All right, money. So money is goals. Being intentional with your money is an aspect of money. If you have champagne tastes, but you have a beer budget, you're going to feel broke. So whereas if you don't drink at all and you're happy with water, you got money left over. Look at that. You take that money, so you've got positive cash flow now. Even if it's just a little positive cash flow, that's positive. If you have a financial goal you're shooting towards, that's positive. And I can actually prove this, and I have experiences and hundreds, thousands of stories where people hit all of their financial goals and were then unhappy because they had nothing else to work towards. Literally, they had too much money and not enough goals. So cash flow is money in, money out. Balance sheet is having extra money, more assets and liabilities. That's an important factor. So, but these goals I had been struggling on because I had been focused on these other two aspects of money. Positive cash flow. I've always invested half of my earnings, net of taxes. If you factor taxes in, it's about a third to taxes, a third to the future, a third to my balance sheet, if you will, and a third that we live on. Like, that's just how I've always done it. So my balance sheet got really fat, and my cash flow, the amount of money we lived on and spent, was less fat. It was at times very sad for my family. I didn't mind because, of course, I don't do anything with my money outside of saving it for later. So I was doing great on those goals, and I can always save more for later, but there needs to be a purpose for that saving. Currently the estate tax exemption is 12 for a married couple. It's like $26 million, somewhere around there. So I try not to memorize those numbers because they change in a year. So I just ballpark them on purpose. Otherwise, I remember. Like, I remember what they were for the first 11 years of my career. I don't want to remember each year because it doesn't matter. So you need those goals. And literally, my lovely wife is taking a little sabbatical because she worked for all of the goals she wanted, and she reached her retirement point. She worked for enough, she had enough money that she didn't need to trade time for money anymore because she had met all her goals. And she was actually becoming very unhappy because she didn't know why she was working. She didn't have any more goals for that money. And if she spent it on things she didn't want, she then felt bad about it. Like, we even got traveled out. Like, that's a real problem. So that's where you have these three aspects that you also want to be aware of and manage and maintain. Health, of course, if you don't have time because you're just working and taking care of kids, then what are you doing? You don't have time to take care of yourself. Both my wife and I have ended up hospitalized because we were working so much and pushing ourselves so hard because we weren't taking care of ourselves and we weren't taking care of our health. And by the way, I see this as a multidimensional shape where these two things touch. All of the corners touch, actually. We're not doing that today. So anyway, that's a future video. So if you're not taking care of your health, you can literally, like, mine wasn't that bad. It was a quick ER visit, a lot of pain, $6,000 medical bill. But I learned that lesson. You got to take care of yourself. We're humans. Even if we identify ourselves as a mind traveling around in some sort of needy organic biped, we still have to acknowledge that animal and take care of that animal. Otherwise, they will act up. So that's what we got there. Past and future. This is interesting. How many people have you met that are stuck in the past? They can't get over something that happened long ago. They can't let it go. They ruminate. That's a great word. They ruminate over some past event, or they ruminate over a future worry. They have anxiety. Anticipatory anxiety is a good psychiatric word. They're worried about something that might happen, even though the odds of it happening are really low. They focus on that. They ruminate on that. They can't enjoy anything else because of that. Instead of looking at, now we have 9 coins. Instead of looking at the other 9 coins, they're stuck on that 1 coin. So you want to balance those as well. And you don't want to make it a sum-zero game. You don't want to have to keep trading one for the other. Now, there is some elasticity where when you're working on one, it does take your focus off of the others. Birthday boy. Also, wife. Even me. A little self-love. It's like I'm hidden up there in that photo. Yeah, of course. So, does that make sense? Hopefully you're following me. This is great concepts. So, and then day, mindfulness, enjoying today. I've already been to a soccer game. One of the other soccer dads and I decided we're going to coach next season together because it'll be able to balance time, and our game did not go well. So through no fault of the existing coach, just we have some ideas that we think will work better in the future that will make us all happier. So now we've gotten into a very complex version of happiness. There's a Hemingway quote, and I'll misquote it, but basically Hemingway said, you know, simple people are often seen as very happy because intelligent people can and do go around making themselves and everyone else miserable. If you know me, you know I sometimes get lost in math and I forget the human element, and you know, I forget the need, want, wish, you know, needs. You've had them since birth. Wants. You've had them since birth. Birth needs. Take care of that body. Wants are things we're working for since then. And wishes, that's when you've done such a good job on the other two, you get to be a little sassy. So I love this cup. I never knew why I loved this cup, but look, need, want, wish, good explanation. Love this cup. I actually bought it for someone that was stuck in the moment too much. She did not listen to my over-engineered plan. Okay, I do not have a 9-sided dice, but if someone would like to send me one, lovely. I don't even know. Yeah, you can make it work. You can't actually make it. It would be very hard to, you would have to round edges and okay, focus. You could make a 9-sided dice. It would be very complex and it's very hard to balance. But I have 9 coins. So to be happy in the sector of happy, because now we're no longer in an octant. That's reductive. So now we're going deeper. We have to be happy. We have to roll positive on all 9 of these aspects if we're just randomly doing it. So let's make the dimes. Let's make the dimes money, because money is a dime a dozen. That's not a dime. Oh, that's funny. This is a sales tax credit from Kansas. So states used to be able to issue their own currency and collect their own taxes, because all currency is taxes. All currency is liability. That's a different video. I'll shoot that video later. And I'll have a suit on and look professional. So these are, and by the way, that coin is probably worth a lot of money. I should probably keep it somewhere safe. Excellent way to represent money. So let's roll for money. And remember, I want heads on all 3. I rolled tails on, I rolled tails on 2, heads on 1. All right, that's not good odds. So didn't do great on money. So maybe I've got great cash flow today. I'm spending it poorly, just willy-nilly. And some of it's on credit card debt. So my interest on my debt is growing. So I'm going in the hole there. That would be, so, you know, great cash flow, bad goals. That's what I rolled right here. There you go. Now the pennies, and these are all actual pennies. Let's make pennies time, because time is finite. So of course it is the lowest currency. 2 heads, or 1 heads and 2 tails again. Wow. Well, I am rolling consistently today. I am many things. Consistent is rarely one of them, but there's always a first. Okay, so we got 1 heads and 2 tails. So I worked out today. I did not think about the past. I did not think about the future too much. I did an all right job at going to soccer with my son. My daughter even came with me because for whatever reason, we were talking about taking over the world. So she came and sat on my lap and we talked about what we're gonna do when we're in charge of the world. I told her we should get rid of all mosquitoes, and my 8-year-old's like, mosquitoes are an important part of the ecosystem. We can't do that. So she came up with a plan to remove their stingers and send them to blood donation clinics. So remember to donate blood. I should focus. I think the accountants need me before I go. And I have to pick up a birthday cake. All right, so now we're on love. Love's quarters. Love's the most important for most of us, right? It is. Why are we so bad at it? So let's see if we can roll all heads on love. Tails, tails, tails. I rolled horrible. I am not going to name these sectors because now that we've complicated this and dug deeper, there are, hold on, 500 different possible outcomes. Ooh, that's bad. Yeah, so if you're random and you're overthinking this, your likelihood of becoming happy is 1 out of 500. That's 0.2%. So remember when it was simple, we were at 12.5%. Now we are at 0.2%, which is 1 out of 500. So if someone wants to send me a 500-sided coin or dice, I will roll that as well. I'm sure one of you can 3D print it. Did you know marbles are actually multi-sided dice? Like, you think they're round, but if you look at them close enough, glass marbles, I should say, glass, it grows in a crystalline form. So there's actually a bunch of flat level surfaces. I don't know how many, I don't, but when that marble stops rolling, it's because it landed on a flat surface and it stayed there. So that's, you know, it chose 1 out of, I'm not even gonna guess how many facets are on a marble. It depends on the size of the marble. Depends on what you put into the glass. I digress, and I run out of time for this video. So, if you've successfully been able to figure out your time, love, and money balance, and you want to get more love in your life, or more time in your life, or more money in your life. Funny that I stalled on that one. What do I do for a living again? I'm actually been focused on these two and I ran out of time to focus on that one. So those are the odds. This is the concept. I'm going to continue to flush it out. I've got to name those octants at some point. I don't know what this is, a TED Talk. This is a hobby for me, by the way. This is what I do for fun. Thank you for watching. I hope that's been helpful. Sorry that I went on so many tangents. I didn't have anyone watching me to make faces when I went on a tangent today. So that is it. I hope this has been helpful. I love this concept. I hope you can do something with it.